Let's get the order.
So, good morning once again to our listeners and the viewers from the United States and the America Hub. Good evening to our viewers and listeners from Africa, India, and Indonesia. We are coming to the end of our three-day conference on working together in the light of Fratelli, Tutti, and Laudato Si. This is the second international and global conference on Fratelli Tutti, basically inspired by the common work between His Holiness Pope Francis and the Grand Imam Al-Tayeb of Al-Azhar University. And this conference is held every 2 years. So the first one was in August 2021. This second one was organized at the same time as we are celebrating the World Harmony Week at the United Nations, but also in preparation to the World Parliament of Religions that will be held in August in Chicago. And of course, our next conference will be in 2025, inshallah, God willing. So we are very privileged to have religious leaders with us who are going to give us their remarks as we conclude this conference on working together in the light of Fratelli Tutti and Laudato Si. So in the room we have Imam Shefiu from Nigeria. He is the national coordinator of the Interreligious Coalition Against Corruption, the Interfaith Partnership for Sustainable Development in Nigeria, and the Chief Executive Officer of the Open Farm and Agro Allied Company Limited, among other activities that he has. Then we have Sister Teresa, who is the president of the Maryknoll Sisters, which is a global community. We have Father Augustine Pamplany, who is the director, Religion and Science Institute, Little Flowers Seminary in Kerala, India. We have Atilla Kahveci, who is the executive director of Pacifica Institute, which is based in California. He's on the board of Christian Muslim Consultative Group in Los Angeles and Southern California Muslim Jewish Forum. He's also the recipient of the award of Muslim leaders by the Mayor's City of Los Angeles Human Relations Commission in 2016. He holds a degree of Master of Arts from Claremont School of Theology. And later on, we shall be joined by Debbie Mytels, who is the chair of Peninsula Interfaith Climate Action, which refers to the San Francisco Bay Peninsula, which to people who are further referred to as Silicon Valley. And this conference has been co-chaired by the Global Ministries University in San Jose in California, with the president with us, Professor Gerald Grudzen, and the Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies at Tangaza University College in Nairobi, chaired by Father Maganya Innocent. So thank you very much once again as we conclude this this conference. And I would like to start with Sister Teresa Hougnon of the Maryknoll Sisters. Please, Sister, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to each of you wherever you are. I thank you for this opportunity to speak to all. And I give great thanks to the organizers of this Interfaith conference that spans the globe and takes the inspiration direction from Pope Francis in addressing the economic and ecological crises of our time. I've been moved by the words of many of the speakers, Professor Araki, Bishop Stowe, the immigration lawyers Deidre Griffin and Heidi Zernecka, SUNESA program manager David Munene, and my own Maryknoll sister Rosemary Malazzo. I look forward to the time I can glean more insights and wisdom from the many speakers when they're available on YouTube. I'd like to highlight two concepts spoken about in these days that are ever present in the two documents of Pope Francis. The first is that we must come to understand that we are one human family. Professor Araki opened the first African panel on Thursday by saying, in fact, we are only one race, the human race. The second concept is that we must experience and be with the suffering of others, as Bishop Stowe so eloquently reminded us of Pope Francis's words. Solutions cannot come before our compassion. It is not enough to hear the cry of the poor, the cry of the earth. We must be with the pain, the vulnerability of the people, to witness and to share in the humanity. The wonder of this one human family is our complexity, our differences that reflect the many gifts given to us by God. Each culture, each religion, each constellation of human beings brings forth an aspect of creativity and wisdom and that contributes to our fullness of life here on earth. Each one of us brings our own unique contribution to life, that unique aspect in our person that reflects God's goodness. What is not unique to each of us is our human spirit. In my experience as a biennial sister, working with peoples in Asia and Africa, I have found that we all share in the human spirit, which is creative, full of collective wisdom, and resilient. It is a belief in this human spirit and its transcendent nature that was the basis of my work in Kenya for over 10 years and continues to guide my work today. In Kenya, I, with two other sisters, brought people of diverse backgrounds and belief systems together for conversations. We created a space for communities to rebuild relationships and work together for a common future. In the safe space, we listen. We sit with the pain as it is expressed. We hear the anger and the loss. And as each person is heard and seen, the words turn to recognition and understanding. As you hear me, I can hear you. As I listen to you, I see myself. We are all connected as one human family. I want to share with you a conversation I had with an imam after working together with his community for a year. His village had suffered death and destruction, neighbor against neighbor, and they had lived separately for 2 years. The village suffered because without reconciliation, they had no livelihood. No one could rebuild a future without the other. After 9 months of my sisters and I being with them, the people chose to reconcile with each other. Speaking with the imam a few months later, I asked him how he had experienced the process. He said, "We are grateful because Allah sent you to us." I sheepishly protested and said, "But it was you who reconciled with your brothers and sisters." Again, he said, Yes, we did the reconciliation, but it was because Allah sent you to us. It was as if a light bulb went off in my head. I said, yes, God did call us to witness this reconciliation. God worked through each one of us to bring us together. As a Maryknoll sister, I share with my sisters a call to go out to the other, to go to the margins, to be with the other, to witness the suffering, and to see the people as the gift of God they are. It is in being with and seeing the other that we are able to see ourselves, to feel our own suffering, and to bring healing not only to us, but to others, to bring healing to all. This is not our call alone, but a call to each one of us as human beings. We share the same human spirit. We are driven to belong to one another. This is the work of God, and we participate as co-creators of our future together, as one human family, and as one in communion with the earth. The healing of the earth, the healing of our human relationships, requires of us our participation. As co-creators of our future together, we must recognize each person's, each culture's, each religion's contribution. We, as one earth community, are lacking without any one of us. Thank you again for this time. God bless.
Thank you very much, Sister Teresa, with this concrete experience of reconciliation, and to see that God works through us to bring people together. So thank you very much, Sister Teresa. So let's now go to India. Father Augustine Pamplany from the Religious and Science Institute, Little Flowers in Kerala. Father Augustine.
This is fine, I hope now.
It's okay, Father. Yeah,
thank you, Father Innocent, for the warm welcome. All the more for this invitation and the opportunity provided to me to address this August conference that you have organized in collaboration with the Global Ministries University. I realize that annually one or another of this sort of event is organized, and it is my honor to be collaborating with you in some respects in this field also. And from the perspective of Fratelli, Tutti and Laudato, I wish to add a new string to your deliberations and discussions. I know in the past 3 days, you have been dwelling on several topics directly pertaining to Pope Francis' encyclicals. And something that is indirectly present in Pope Francis' encyclical, Laudato Si especially, I wish to dwell on. This will be a science-religion dialogue stream for environmental protection, basically from the perspective of Laudato Si. That would be the focus of my short reflection along with you this evening. So reflections on the insights of Fratelli Tutti and Laudato Si are certainly a very promising and rewarding exercise in addressing several of our cultural problematics and certainly the environmental issue. And the background of there is a background for Pope Francis' interest in especially in the publication of Laudato Si and the environment. You know, in recent times, Catholic Church, especially the leaders of the church, recent 3 popes have taken very serious interest in science-religion dialogue. Pope Francis' address to the Pontifical Academy of the Sciences has been very epoch-making, in which he said, evolution is more than a hypothesis. Science can purify religion from error and superstition. Religion can purify science from idolatry and false absolute. Each can draw from the other into a wider world, a world in which both can flourish. This was Pope John Paul II's address to the Pontifical Academy of the gathering of the scientists. And there is John Paul II. Pope Francis has always considered science as a great resource for peace. In the context of the COVID, while addressing the international scientific community, Pope said, never before as in this time have we been aware of the need to relaunch scientific research to face the challenges of contemporary society. Faced with new challenges, you are entrusted, dear friends in science, as you, Pope is emphasizing, with the task of testifying to the possibility of building a new social bond, endeavoring to bring scientific research closer to all the community from the local to the international. And Pope goes on saying that. And certainly, and Laudato Si, Pope's encyclical Laudato Si goes deeper in the sense it analyzes the deeper conceptual roots of our present-day ecological and environmental problems. And Pope offers a new theological view of the relationship between God, world, and the human. And this alternative integral vision presented by Pope Francis, I was surprised to learn and realize that, that of course, when Pope was elected Pope, Nature magazine had written an editorial hailing Pope Francis because he holds a science degree in chemistry, So Nature, the topmost journal in science publications, they were saying that they were hoping that Pope will encourage scientific research and so on. So Pope has a innate inclination and a scientific temper towards science, we know. So in tune with that, Pope's theological vision presented in the encyclical Laudato Si is very much informed by the recent scientific worldview, the worldview provided by the natural sciences, especially physics and biology, we could say. Pope speaks of our communion with nature and one another in both these encyclicals. And this is a transition from the classical theological anthropology, which placed the humans at the top of the ladder of creation, in the hierarchical view of the ladder of reality. Not so, Pope says. What we need today is a theology of communion and interconnectedness, relationship. This is in a way a transition from the classical anthropology to a kind of theo-anthropocosmic vision, as Raimundo Panikkar would call it, cosmotheantric vision of reality that provides an alternative conceptual foundation for environmental philosophies, theologies, practices, and so on. And in sciences today, while classical physics, mechanical philosophy of nature, and so on had placed humans at the center of the earth, but with the developments in physical sciences like quantum physics, new biology, and so on, anthropocentrism is replaced by a new universalism, in which humans are only a strand in a whole web of relations. Everything is interconnected. Our pinnacle status is gone. Are we not better than the birds of the air or the lilies of the field? Not quite, we know. Are you not worthy than the grass, blades of grass in the field? In a way, analogically saying not. That is the idea emerging from the sciences, we could say. So this is in a way a correction of the wrong theology, misinterpretation of the theology of Genesis, which happened to be mistranslated as conquering the earth, the original command of God. So science, how does science inform theology? And that intersection of science and theology, actually we realize that its original meaning is not conquering the earth and subduing it, rather shepherding and caring the earth. That is how this becomes a conceptual impetus for theology to protect the environment. Secondly, in sciences today, there is a transition from mechanism to organism. the mechanical philosophy of nature of the 16th to 19th century, spearheaded by classical physics, had eliminated all sorts of organic elements in nature, the organic nature of nature. The universe itself was looked upon as huge machine. In a way, this approach, worldview of the sciences, has been largely instrumental in our environmental crisis, whereby nature is considered as an object, an instrument to be used for the benefit of the humans. Ironically, it is sciences themselves who are rectifying this error by restoring that organic understanding of reality. Human genome projects, the data from it says that we humans share 99% of genes with the chimpanzee, 80% with cows, 60% with a mouse, let alone a single cell bacteria. We have 20% of genetic overlap. This is the interconnectedness of the entire species, the organic interconnectedness of nature. And again, in modern phases, we could say reductionism is replaced by holism. Analytical, reductionistic approach, methodologies of sciences have given way to a kind of holistic approach. Paul Davies, the renowned Australian physicist, would say the time is coming in physics whereby we could say the whole cosmos can be reduced to a single equation like H2O. And no one who has studied the forces of nature can say that the world above us is the manifestation of something very, very clever indeed. Paul Davies goes on to say, this is the intersection between science and theology. On the one hand, science re-enchants the nature, the re-sacralization of nature, the sacred nature of nature, which we lost under the onslaught of the scientific industrial revolution, has been restored by the nature sciences today. That's a very positive and happy state of affairs. And that has been the point of the religions for long. Therefore, the new worldview, complemented by sciences and religious theologies, have a rich potential at stake to restore that harmonious and ecological vision of reality. And Pope's encyclical is very much based upon this new ecological theology, we could say. If time permits, I wish to make it a couple of minutes more. Einstein's famous equation, E is equal to mc squared. This provides us with a powerful metaphor carrying the rich potentials at stake in science-religion dialogue for the protection of the environment. This is both the equation of creation and destruction, of life and death. Destruction or death in terms of the atom bomb, where matter is turned into energy. Creation and life, for it is also the equation of Big Bang, where energy is turned into matter. Science without religion and ethics is destruction of the entire earth, whereas science with religion and ethics is sustenance and rebuilding of nature and society. Accordingly, Laudato Si is a very bold assertion that the future of the human societies and of the earth itself rests upon our ability to integrate our critical as well as worshipful mindset, our technological and ethical mindsets, our scientific and religious mindsets. Laudato Si's articulation is that. Therefore, it's a very positive development in our times that in the world at large, science-religion dialogue today has moved from a fringe discipline to a mainstream academic program, gaining momentum daily. It is gladdening that Global Ministries University, along with the Tangasa and us, has joined this momentum by launching several academic programs, including doctoral program in science-religion dialogue. And we are honored that we are also collaborators to you in this regard. And in this part of the world, in our country, in India, we are also doing the maximum that we can in this field. And I am pretty sure that for science-religion dialogue can certainly give an extra impetus and momentum to the major viewpoints that Pope Francis is trying to advocate through his encyclicals. So thank you to you, Father Innocent, for this opportunity.
So thank you very much, Father Augustine, to remind us the dialogue between religion and science, which is something that we are promoting together with Global Ministries University as a way of collaborating and working together. And also, stressing also the scientific nature of Laudato Si when it comes to issues on climate change. So thank you very much, Father Augustine. Now from India, let us cross the other side. We go to Nigeria. Imam Shefiu, welcome. Imam Shefiu.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good evening from Nigeria. Very, very glad to be part of this very important conference. And I've been following up with the various presentations and activities since Thursday when I joined the conference. It's very important to people like us to join in this conversation and to have voices, not only as religious leaders, but as also citizens of a country that is well endowed with nature, Africa and a continent, and also Nigeria as a country. First of all, I would like to state here that religion and nature, we're birthed together. And nature supersedes creation of human being. And this, according to the Islamic teachings, we know that there had existed the world before the creation of man. And a lot of creations that were created by Almighty God, and that in expectant of human existence. And the whole essence is to protect human and also for human to protect them. First of all, the first point I would like to highlight here is the divination. I don't mean definition or interpretation or meaning. I mean divination. We mean divine nation of the nature and the creation of man, which explicitly gave us that the nature was in existence before man, and man came to actually live side by side by nature, which is one of those things that most of us as human beings, we have not realized that nature is part of our life. The trees, the seas, the water, everything that we see are only meant not only for our consumption by destroying them, but very well for our health and environmental sustainability. Going by the Laudato Si by Pope Francis and the Fratelli Tutti, which these are very, very great documents put by religious leaders to actually work along with nature, to respect nature and ensure that nature is being protected. If you look at the Quran chapter 1, verse 1, which talks about that glory be to God, the Lord of the universe. And here in the Islamic interpretation, in the tafsir of the Quran, of that verse, meaning explanation and commentary, it was clearly stated that al-alamu, which is the universe, transcend beyond human being alone, but rather it also focus on the nature. Meaning that the alamun nabat, the world or the universe of the plants, the universe of the trees, the greens, the sea, the mountains. All these are also critical to human existence, but not a threat. But today, what we are seeing is that human has become a threat to nature for the following reasons. One, lack of knowledge and understanding. Why do I say this? Because most of us as religious leaders or scholars, we do not accept science. We feel that science is synonymous to the scientist, is synonymous to the Western world, especially in this part of Africa, whereby most of the things that are coming out scientifically that have been proven beyond reasonable doubt, we rejected it using religious indoctrination, using religion to counter them. But in the real sense, religion itself, going by the scriptures, what the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and so on, actually validates most of the scientific proofs that we have had. Most knowledge have been proved by these scriptures beyond reasonable doubt. But because most of us lack the knowledge, so we feel that we feel that religion is about just the doctrine, just the belief, the faith, the aqidah. So we do not believe that religion is even, science is religion. So that is one. The second thing is that sorry. The second very important point is the rivalry between religion, which I just made a few mention about, and science, which has actually caused a lot of ignorance and devastation negative effects on nature, whereby human beings see other creation, both animals, the plants, as just for consumption, and to like use them for that. The existence of these existence, we need them to live a good life, a healthy life, and as such, we must also protect them. And that takes me to the third point, which is about mutual existence and the rights to exist. So nature also have the right to exist. Nature also have the right to be nature, because their own well-being is our own well-being. And that is the interdependency of human existence and nature, as which we are part of nature, because those plants, those trees, there are a lot of conflicts in terms of these two species of nature, the human nature and other natures, whereby we do not allow them to exist. We cut down trees without replanting them. We kill, slaughter animals without taking cognizance of the fact that they are very, very important to our well-being. The Quran also made it clear that there are some animals that you don't consume. Why? Because they are not for your consumption. So what is the essence of those animals? The essence is that their existence also validates your existence as human being. And this we also need to let most of us know. And that is why people like us are really, really happy to walk along the Laudato Si and also the Fratelli Tutti documents of religion and climate, which is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Imam Shefiu, and stressing really again, as Father Augustine said, that the relationship between religion and science, but you have also brought that the relationship between the human being and nature, and then going back to the scriptures, and that one of the points is that we really we are ignorant of the scriptures when it comes to issues of coexistence between the human being and nature. So thank you very much, Imam Shefiu from Nigeria. Let me now call upon Debbie Mytels. Welcome from the Silicon Valley.
Hello.
Hello.
It's morning here. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be involved in this discussion this morning and to know about the conference you're having, to hear the wise words from ministers and people of faith and religion from all around the world. I'm just honored to be part of you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm not a minister. I'm not a person of the cloth, as people might say. I'm a lay leader. Although my great-grandfather was a minister, maybe I have a little bit of his skills too. I don't know. Anyway, I'm here to talk about a more practical approach to working with people in religious congregations here in the Silicon Valley, which is between San Francisco and San Jose on the west coast of California in the US. And we have members, people aren't really officially members of our group, but they show up, which is wonderful. And we have people from about 30 congregations between San Francisco and San Jose who are part of a group called PICA, which stands for Peninsula Interfaith Climate Action. So we have people from a wide variety of religions, but mostly are from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And we have monthly meetings, and I'll talk with you a little bit about what we do at our meetings and the kind of work that we're doing. We're mostly leaders of what we call a green team within the congregations, which again are often lay leaders, not ministers, but often the ministers will participate in trying to get the congregation active in 3 different areas, basically. One is to work on the facilities, the buildings of the organization and make it to be more in tune with environmental concerns. The other is educational programs, both for their own congregation and for the community at large. And then the third area is to work on legislation, and particularly California laws, because that's our closest to home place where we try to make a difference. So I'll talk about what we do in all of those areas. The first is, and they're all networking. We just come and we share what we're doing and we ask people for advice on what they can do. And then we share what we've been doing and things like that. So the first area where we do networking is about our facilities. And when we started about 8 years ago, people were involved with thinking about putting solar collectors on their roof, which is a wonderful thing, of course, to provide the free energy of the sun from the creation that comes to us. And about half of the congregations involved now do have solar panels on their roofs, and it's significantly reduced their energy costs. And that's a really big benefit to them. Some have begun to place electric vehicle chargers so that they have electric vehicles that are owned by their staff or some of the members of the congregation. They can plug them in and take that free electricity, which is wonderful. Others have been concerned about drought, which we have as a major issue in California, of course, and they've changed the landscaping to get rid of grass and other water-thirsty plants. And so they have native plant landscaping. And now a number of our congregations are thinking about major changes to their whole facility, getting rid of the fossil fuel burning heaters for the buildings, getting rid of cooking stoves that use gas. And they're making a big transitions in their facilities, trying to move to everything to clean, green electricity. That's what we're working on a lot now in California, stopping to use gas, which is methane gas, of course, and any other fossil fuels. So that's what we're doing with facilities, and we share ideas about how to do that. Excuse me. The other area, second area that we're working on is education. One of the first meetings that we had, which was not just for one congregation, but for all of the congregations in our area and the public at large, we asked a woman named Mary Pfeiffer, who's a well-known author on several books, to talk about what she'd been doing in her state of Kansas, which is in the middle of the United States. She wrote a book called The Green Boat about how she and others in her congregation and throughout the state spent about 1.5 years organizing people to protest and stop a pipeline that was supposed to bring oil from Canada down to the refineries in Louisiana. And after many ups and downs, successes, setbacks, they finally did achieve the stopping of this major pipeline. And her story was so inspirational. We had her come out with her husband, and they gave us all a wonderful evening. We filled up one of the churches with about 250 people to hear her talk. And her husband played the guitar. We had songs as well. It was just a wonderful evening and so inspirational. More recently, we've been supporting another Episcopal congregation called St. Timothy's. They did a 4-session discussion program on the book by an author named Katharine Hayhoe. Katharine Hayhoe is a climate scientist, and her book is called Saving Us, meaning us humans. And she's also an evangelical Christian, and she's able to talk with a lot of people who might be not believing the science behind climate change by finding ways to find common ground. And she's an amazing author. She's also given a TED talk and says that the most important thing we can do about climate change is to talk about it. And she's very good, and her book talks about how to talk with people from a wide variety of perspectives. Recently, a couple of congregations, including my own Unitarian congregation, are doing film showing. And congregation Shir Hadash in Los Gatos, which is a Jewish congregation, is showing next week a film called Pandora's Promise, which is a pros and cons of using nuclear power. And it's going to be an interesting film, and we're inviting the broader public to that. And our congregation has been doing a series of films and discussions called Conscientious Projector. Some people may understand that's a play on the word conscientious objector, which is the names that are often given, or phrases often used for people who are opposing to war. So we have the Conscientious Projector program to project the movies. We also have speakers at our monthly meetings for the people who attend, and we usually have, maybe 15, 18 people show up. And these are people who aren't necessarily members of anyone's congregation or religious group, but they have ideas and resources to share that would help others as they're working on their own programs in their own group. And some of the recent programs have included how to talk to children about climate change. We had a demonstration about electric induction cooktops so people can shift to using those and stop using gas. We had another program about what we call the last gift to the earth, which was about green burial, because many of the methods for giving the body take up a lot of land, or they involve cremation, which puts out greenhouse gases. So we're talking about other ways to leave your last gift to the earth, as it was. We had another program about climate anxiety and how to talk about it. Another one was about the land acknowledgement. Many groups in our area are beginning to recognize the harm that's been done to the Native American peoples who still live in small groups and are interwoven in society, but who really were done so badly by Americans who took over the land. And so we've been doing what we call land acknowledgement, which is the state are concerned about the existence of the Native American peoples and what we did to them several hundred years or 100 years ago or more. We also have programs about healthy plate, healthy planet, reminding people about the importance of eating less meat or eating no meat, and how our diets can affect the climate as well. So the third area that we've been doing beyond education is legislation. Which is working with local government and the state government and sometimes the federal government to change the laws. And one of the first things we did was back in 2016 or so, we collected about 200 signatures from 7 or 8 congregations on a petition to our Palo Alto City Council, which is one of the communities here in the Silicon Valley, asking them to support the public employees who were asking to have their pension monies not put into investments in fossil fuels. So it's been a movement to have people who have public monies, public pensions or salaries, pensions for when they retire, not to be invested in fossil fuels, but to be invested in other kinds of things like home building and more valuable solutions. Since then, we've been meeting with local assemblymen, such as Rich Gordon at first, and now Mark Berman, and our state senator, Josh Becker, all who have been fine advocates for pollution prevention and working on climate protection legislation. In 2018, for example, we collected over 2,000 signatures to support Senate Bill 100, which called for all the electricity in California to be 100% carbon-free by 2040, and that was enacted into law. Last year, we supported a 1/2 mile setback between houses and schools and libraries and oil and gas wells. Sometimes people live across the street from oil wells, which is pollution that comes out of these situations. And we're trying to now say if it's within 1/2 mile of any residence or school or library or something like that, it has to be closed down. And that did not pass last year, unfortunately, but we're going to try it again this year. It's so important. And another bill we're supporting this year is called the Corporate Accountability Act. And if it passes, it will require all the major US corporations that do business in California, which of course is a big populated state, that they would have to prepare an annual report about how much greenhouse gas emissions they're putting out into the atmosphere, to really have them become accountable as well. So before I stop, I just want to add a word of importance about working on legislation, which is, changing the laws, and talk about it from a faith-based perspective. Because so many people go to their legislators, their lawmakers, to complain about the financial difficulties that a law would have. Laws that are supposed to reduce pollution, perhaps, or make things easier for society as a whole. And other people, while they do think about pollution prevention or easing monetary burdens, only think about their own needs. They're sort of single issue advocates, we call them. So when we go to talk about preserving creation, we're really speaking about caring for the earth as a whole, the earth that we all live on, as I just heard the Imam speak about so impassionedly and importantly, that it's not just humans either, it's all of nature. We have to protect it. We really need to maintain a stable climate. It's not what we call a special interest. We're talking about protecting our common home. And there's a sacredness about this calling, and it pulls us towards addressing the needs of the poor as well. And how can everyone afford the changes that we need to make, not just those who have money? So we see this destruction that climate disruption causes. We've been seeing right here in California this past month, floods, falling trees, mudslides where houses slide down the hill, and the droughts and the famine that are affecting people all around the world, and including in California. So how can we assure that Earth will continue to provide the food and shelter we need for everyone, and not just those who can afford to pay for it? So we're trying to bring this perspective into the discussions with the legislatures so that they see it from a deeper, more spiritually connected perspective. Wow, so that they can understand that they're doing important work for the whole, for all of creation when they work for these things. So that's a perspective we take. Well, thank you again for inviting me to come and talk and to listen to the others of you share your perspectives too. It's really very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that rich, concrete experience for what you are doing in terms of ecology and climate change, especially pushing for policies and regulations and so on. Thank you very much. That will be very, very inspirational. And thank you very much for the work you're doing. Yeah, so good. Now let's is Atilla Kahveci. I hope I pronounced well the name.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you, Father Innocent, for having me. Can I share a screen for the presentation?
Yes, we're going to give you the sharing. You can now share.
Let me try. Yes, now I'm good. Thank you. Hold on, I'm getting there. Thank you for having me, Father Innocent. I'll briefly introduce the Hizmet movement, which is also have a quarter in California and presence in several cities in California here. But before I do, I'd like to have a kind of what is the significance of person-to-person interaction is when we are doing interfaith work around the world. So this study sponsored by Judge Russell after September 11, 2001, after the unfortunate incident in New York and Washington, D.C., this guy invested $100 million. What is the best way to reach out to others? And then why not we do some kind of promotional stuff with the media, newspapers, and TV stations? And then he employed this guy, Henry Izumizaki, who was coordinating these efforts. And they invested $100 million, had a kind of a year or two study. And after so many outreach and others, they finally discovered that what they did only changed a fraction of the media perception of bigotry and other stuff. But then this was a kind of a traditional approach. They did the poll results and everything. They found that they only changed the public perception of enmity and other stuff only marginally. But then with all the studies, what they found out eventually was that the person-to-person interaction was the most important stuff. And this is a kind of a chart. US public has warmest feelings for who? Warmer, more positive. At the top is the Jews, Catholics, and evangelical Christians. And then comes Buddhists. And then another chart among all Democrats and Republicans. Again, among all Republicans, evangelical Christians, Jews, and Catholics. And then for Democrats and Jews and Catholics and Buddhists are at the top. Now, what they found out, interestingly, with the Pew research, after the Henry Izumaki's research, that also correlates that, that knowing someone from a religious group is linked with having relatively more positive views of that group. It doesn't depend on media. It doesn't depend on the newspaper news. But as you can see, it changes significantly. And when you look at these on the left side, when someone knows someone from another group, the perception, the positive perception changed dramatically. So person-to-person interaction again. So this professor, Dr. Warshni, has a long study and written extensively about ethnic conflicts in India, civic life, Hindus and Muslims in India. And he also did a long time study, I think a 10-year research. And this brings us to his research in different cities in India, from Bombay, Ahmedabad to Calcutta, Bangalore, and Jalgaon, Tamahi, Indore. So as you can see, like minimum of 15 deaths in 3 riots over 2-year periods. He's done an extensive research, minimum of 50 deaths in 10 riots over 50-year periods. So if you look at the right column, you'll see the number of deaths is the highest in Bombay. So what he concludes was that if there is less engagement among different diverse groups, there's going to be more riots and deaths. And in Calcutta, for example, which is a kind of a highly relatively populated city, that he's come to the conclusion that because of the dynamic nature of the interfaith dialogue or dialogue between different diverse groups, the numbers have gone down significantly. So that is his conclusion, Dr. Warshni's conclusion, that if there is associational, institutional dialogue, business association, professional organization, reading clubs, film clubs, sport clubs, NGOs, trade unions, and cadre-based political parties, and in everyday life, families visit each other and then eat together regularly, jointly participate in festivals, allow their children to play together in the neighborhood and play sports together, then there's less likely that there'll be riots and deaths in these cities. So if there's a kind of a dynamic society who are regularly visiting each other, there's less likely that there'll be a kind of riots or deaths that culminated from misunderstanding and bigotry.
Mhm.
So goals of civic engagement are, for example, our goals is to prevent, reduce, eliminate ignorance and fear, anger, hatred, enmity, and discrimination and conflict. Fear mongers, those who benefit from polarization, and develop familiarity, knowledge, empathy, acceptance, harmony, and cooperation. So from labels, from Muslims, Christians, Jews, or Hindus, we should go to the personal connections with names. George, Ahmed, Hatice, and others, around shared values and goals and concerns. So principles of civic engagement are: language of presence is the best, that you have to be present, as Sister Teresa said. She was there in person with the Muslims there, so her presence meant a lot. And eventually the Imam said that Allah sent her to us. And do what's natural. Second is spontaneous to you. Ask your heart, as Prophet Mohamed said, peace be upon him. And then the third is humility, being in the presence, in humility of the others. So we are all people, and we are a writer or a neighbor or a father or a mother, resident of a city, traveler, a Muslim. We have different layers of personalities. And from there, we also have we have the common values as Christians, Muslims, Jews, and Buddhists and Hindus. We have peace, we want human dignity, justice, and mutual respect and hope. And then we have the shared values of humanity, commitment to the dignity of all human beings and positive action, hope versus fear, and dialogue versus stereotyping, respecting the elderly, serving God through serving fellow humans. We have these shared values of humanity. And what Hizmet movement, which is founded in the late 1960s by Fethullah Gülen, and then was intent on building on education first, and then interfaith dialogue in the 1990s, and then the helping others through relief organizations. It has this kind of middle way, which can be described from, if you look at the spectrum from pacifism to forming a political party, it stood in the middle. This Hizmet movement stood in the middle by being engaged citizens and advocating for the legislator, as previously explained, to the California Assembly about the nature and others. In the spectrum of political party from pacifism on the one hand and to forming political party seeking office, Hizmet stands in the middle, does not go to the extremes, engage citizens voting, supporting candidates most aligned with their values and beliefs, advocating for positions aligned with their values and beliefs. And he has a consistent behavior through the times from the 1970s until 2016, which was a kind of a threshold where Hizmet participants had to move out of Turkey to other parts of the world. So what distinguishes Gülen as an Islamic scholar is his holistic view of religious tradition versus cherry picking. Studied and taught most significant scholars Fethullah Gülen's position, that is sincerity and ability to identify the principles that constitute the spirit of the Quran and the Sunnah, that is the tradition of Prophet Mohammed, seeking the most accurate meaning as a practitioner with an open mind, against seeking justification for an existing agenda. And the third and last one is the knowledge of both Eastern and Western thought and scientific tradition. So with that, I don't know, Father Innocent, if I can share a video of what Hizmet is. Do I have 2 minutes more?
Yeah, can I have 2 minutes? Yeah.
Let me share this video that best explains the Hizmet movement developed by Pacifica Institute, our foundation.
Atilla Kahveci.
Can you hear the sound of the video?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Born in the east part of Turkey, he inspired fellow citizens in mobilizing around the cause of providing access to quality education, and by inspiring the establishment of scholarships, free tutoring centers, college prep courses, schools, and student hostels for all, regardless of social economic status, ethnic, or religious background.
The Hizmet movement that Mr. Gulen has inspired is phenomenal. It's a way of saying to not just to Muslims, but to non-Muslims especially, here's who we are, here's what we need to do.
Hizmet participants have expanded education opportunities around the world, from Central Asia to South Africa, from Australia to the Balkans and Americas.
What Fethullah Gulen and the movement have done is to offer a model for Muslims around the entire planet of how to be thoroughly world citizens, thoroughly citizens of the 21st century, and at the same time deeply Muslim. It's hard to overestimate how important that task is.
Hizmet also rejuvenated the tradition of interfaith dialogue and strongly advocates pro-democracy, equal opportunity, pro-science, non-violent stances. One of the core tenets of his teachings is the celebration of religious, cultural, social, and political diversity.
We live in a world that is full of fear, and a lot of fear in the West is fear of Muslims. The Hizmet movement has been tremendously effective, in my opinion, in showing the true face of Islam, that it's a religious tradition that in many ways is no different than Judaism or Christianity.
Humanitarian aid is an important component of the Hizmet movement, which is represented by the Embrace Relief in the US that organizes the aid efforts through opening water wells and performing cataract surgeries in Africa, and also reaching out to the disaster-stricken zones around the world. One of the core ideals of Hizmet is not just an emphatic acceptance of religious, cultural, social, and political diversity, but actual celebration of this diversity. Because Hizmet participants consider this diversity as divine will.
This is the attempt to celebrate all of humanity, and I think that's why Hizmet is different from other religious groups.
Well, thank you for that, for this opportunity. This was a video prepared by our institute in 2018. Wanted to share with that. Hope didn't take much of your time. Thank you, Father Innocent.
So thank you very much for these remarks. That brings to the conclusion of our 3-day conference on working together in the light of the teaching of Pope Francis on Fratelli Tutti and Laudato Si. Allow me at this juncture just to say a word of thanks to the organizers, and if at the end maybe Professor Gerard have 1 or 2 words, then and then we will conclude the conference. So a word of thanks goes to the team in the USA, Professor Gerald Grudzen as the co-chair of this Global Interfaith Conference on Fratelli Tutti, Marita Grudzen, who is the secretary of the Global Conference of Fratelli Tutti, Mary Akte, who is our technical guru, who takes care of the website and makes sure that everything is online. So she's working in the background. She has not been seen she's working in the background. Then we have Dr. Senap from the Institute of Tevere in Rome. Yeah. From Nairobi, we have Dr. Ali from Uma University, Dr. Reginald Landugala from Tangaza University College, General Bashir, a lecturer in the Institute for Interreligious Dialogue and Islamic Studies at Tangaza University College. Father Abraham is a Komboni missionary. Mustafa Gench and Hudai from Harmony Institute, also belonging to the Hizmet movement, who worked closely with Mrs. Mary on the technical team. Yeah, to make sure that everything goes on smoothly. And then our two secretaries here in Nairobi, Mrs. Milka Bosibori and Miss Debra Nyakundi, for their tireless work in making sure that everything is well organized. And once again, our thanks go to all the participants and all to the presenters, and in a special way to Father Paulin, who was our keynote speaker from the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue in Rome. So let me now give Professor Gerald just the concluding words and remarks, and then we close the conference. Gerald?
Yes, I just want to thank my wife, Marita Grutson, who put together a lot of the panels on the American Hub over the last several months. We worked together as a team, and it's been quite an experience. This is our second global conference. Most people don't realize how much work goes into it in putting together one of these conferences. So we're grateful also to all the team that were part of our group here in the US, particularly Mary Acte and Rick Silvestri, who was also part of the technical team. So one thing I like to say is, tying in with what we just heard about the Pacifica movement, we started this program in Kenya 10 years ago of collaboration with the Hizmet movement. And at the time, the person that helped us most was Fatih Agdagan, who now lives in Australia as part of Hizmet. And with his help and with the collaboration of other partners in the coastal region, particularly Bishop Lago, we started our interfaith education work. And that eventually led to approval of our program by the Department of Education in Kenya for working with schools and principals. So this idea of civic engagement and shared values has been part of our goal in these programs, to bring people together. And we've been doing this in California for almost 15 years with Pacifica, including Santa Clara University. So this is a movement that has a long history now, almost 15 or 20 years. And we appreciate all the participants who have been part of it, and so happy that found your program, Father Innocent. I think it was through Bishop Lago we connected with you. So making these connections, and now the Maryknoll affiliate movement has the first Muslim participants in all of Maryknoll's programs on a regular basis. We meet monthly. So all of these results of this collaboration and the work we've done and the major conferences we've had both in the US and in Kenya have brought us to this point. And now we hope this is a launching pad into the future, where we can continue our walking together in the light of Fratelli, Tutti, and Laudato Si. So thank you, Father Innocent. Thank you for all the participants today. And we look forward to new opportunities for interfaith collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And lastly, another word of thanks to Marita for coordinating the Voices of Women, where she brought together leading women and their voices, which are also part of this conversation. Azakaram from Religion World for Peace, Professor Mary Getui from Nairobi, Professor Notando from South Africa, and other leading women theologians whose voices also are being incorporated in this working together. Once again, thank you, and may God bless you and bless all of us in our effort of working together in bringing solution to issues that are affecting our humanity, and with the inspiration of Pope Francis and the Grand Imam Al-Tayeb from al-Azhar University, whose human fraternity document is really the basis from which we come together as we collaborate together. So thank you very much. May God bless you. And this is the end of our conference. Thank you. May God bless you.